Good morning, Daily Huddle family. Today is Tuesday, and I am here with my co-host, Kathryn Sabol, where we always talk about communication and relationships. Why are we so passionate about communication and relationships? It is because we believe that when we have more effective communication, we can build better relationships, and better relationships build better families, better communities, better business, and a better life. And today we're going to talk about community, specifically a tribute to Cariacou. And Kathryn has a special connection, and I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us why we are talking about the little island of Cariacou today.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. Well, most people hadn't heard, but that I've talked to hadn't heard of Cariacou before July 1st, and that is when Hurricane Beryl came through and devastated the island. So it made national news. And the way I found out about it, honestly, is not because I watched the news. It was because my family reached out to me and said, "Did you see the news that Cariacou had been devastated?" And when I was 16 years old, I decided that for a summer, I wanted to go do service work. And I found a program that sent us to the Caribbean. We went into Grenada first and then went over to the island of Cariacou and spent 6 weeks there doing different service projects on the island. So it does have a very special place in my heart. Um, it was a very magical experience for me. And that little tiny island that no one had ever heard of in my life before I went is quite the treasure. So I wanted to bring it up and talk about it because it's quite a unique people that live there.
Mm. So you were there for 6 weeks?
Hmm.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know that we talked about this when we kind of prepped for the call. Like we want to be very careful not to stereotype an entire community.
Hmm.
And you came away from there with some learning. And before we talk about the devastation, I want to know how that transformed you. You said that you really enjoyed the people. So I guess I want to know why.
Yeah, well, each of us were given I'll tell you a little about the program. Each of us were given a job in the morning to work at a local business. Some people worked at the local mechanic shop. I worked at the museum, and the museum had cultural history of the island and from local artists, and it was really neat. And it was just me and one other woman most of the time. And then whatever tourists or guests would come, because Carriacou is a very small island. It's 13 square miles. It's the
Mhm.
largest of the Grenadine Islands, but it's still quite small. Very hilly, lots of hills, but very small. So, and then in the afternoons, we would go home for lunch. And then in the afternoons, we would all go out as a group. I think there were, I don't know, 15 or 16 of us, same age, range of teenagers. And then we would go out in the afternoon and do service work. We would repair houses. That was the majority of what we did, of doing like repairs on other houses on the island. So got to meet a lot of the folks, and the kids are what I remember. The kids were just running around all the time having so much fun. And they had these little toys. I don't remember them. And I honestly don't remember a lot of things about it. I don't have a great memory from a long time ago. But I do remember they had these little toys and they were just like wooden things. And I don't know what they were. I don't remember what they were called. And they would like throw them up and spin them and do whatever. And that's how they played. And it was just a little wooden thing. And
Yeah.
they were happy as clams. I mean, some of the happiest kids that I've ever seen.
Mm, wow, that's beautiful. Um, I'm kind of wondering because there's disasters every day on this earth, and some seem to affect us more than others.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about what you learned about what happened in Cariacou and how it has affected you since you spent so much time there.
You know what's interesting? And I was actually looking at some videos this morning to sort of to prep for this, just to kind of see, because there wasn't a lot of news actually about it with video when it first happened. Um, and this is just totally honest, what I walked away with is like not devastation. I didn't feel like devastated for them. And I
Mhm.
kept checking myself and going like, why don't I feel that way? Like really sad for them. But it's because they are so positive and so, like I know they'll come back from it. And even on some of the video clips I watched, it was the same thing. They were saying similar things, like we'll be down and out for a couple years, but we'll be back. They're such a positive people, and I just feel like, so it didn't hit me in like a devastating way. And I honestly don't know. One thing is losing things, right? Your house and all that, and that is devastating. And I don't know if or how many lives were lost. And so that's a totally different story. And that is really sad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was more about like fondness of the island and remembering the people and thinking like, and even, I mean, they were just all holed up in one of the videos, they were all holed up in the, I can't remember, it was a municipal building. Everything else had been destroyed, and everyone was right there in the municipal, and they were just cooking and talking, cooking and talking, it's just, they're just a very positive, happy people.
What I'm kind of curious, what would be a typical home there? Like
Mhm.
what does that look like?
Yeah, they're either wooden, almost all of those were destroyed. Wooden, they do have some containers, like container ships like that they would use. And then the ones that made it are the concrete ones, so there are some concrete homes. But
Kind of get an idea though, like of the size and on the inside, are they decorated or is there running water and electricity? Or tell me a little bit
yeah,
about.
they're all different. The one that I stayed in did have running water and electricity. But they're all different. Some of the ones that we helped to repair, they weren't, it was four walls, wooden floor, maybe windows, maybe not. Most of them didn't have windows. And it was just, there was furniture and some of them were decorated, but I don't remember the exact details of each one of them. But yeah, I mean, it's just really simple. I mean, you would just walk in, but most people aren't in their house a lot. It's a very outdoor community. The weather is wonderful except when it's raining, and then you are indoors, but that was part of the culture, is just to be out walking and, going places and doing things.
And would you say that the people spent the majority of their day working on their life and not their life, but livelihood, like collecting food, cleaning, preparing for the next meal?
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I would say so, that between that and working. I mean, it's just like, it was sort of regular. Some people stayed home, and, you
Okay.
know, other people, yeah. I mean, for us, to be out in the community, I mean, the biggest thing is it's a huge tourism community. I mean, right? It's an island. So one of the biggest things that they have, the biggest events, is the regatta. So they've got these boat races that come in, and then just tons of tourists will come in for that. So I think it's the oldest regatta in the Caribbean. I think yeah. So,
Wow.
and so a lot of their commerce in those times, was based on the tourism. And
Mhm.
so getting ready for that. But, and so we saw a lot of that when I worked in the museum, the people coming into the port, and coming onto the island. And it was always interesting to see their reaction, because it was either like, oh my gosh, what is this? Like, where's the nice stuff? Where's the 4-star or whatever, I'm sure there's a hotel on there, but yeah, I wouldn't know. And then others just loved it, fell in love with it. It's such a beautiful place.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think for me, the biggest thing was how different it was. I'd never had the experience, and I've never had the experience of walking everywhere. And sometimes we'd hop in the back of a truck to get taken home because if somebody was just happened to be driving that way, and that was just so different for me. Um, I used to never like coconuts. I thought they were, because I'd only had that like papery stuff that comes in the packet, and they cut them down from the tree and they fall on the ground, and you open it up and drink the coconut milk, and having food that fresh, I'd never experienced that before in my life. That
Wow.
and mangoes. Yeah. It's amazing. And so just to be that connected to um, what's around, you know, to nature, to the earth, and just to have your food right there. And when I came back, I struggled a little bit because I was like, what is this thing I'm eating? It's not as delicious as that mango that fell off the tree. I
Oh, I
think,
bet. I bet.
and coconut, I've probably not eaten it since, honestly, because it's not good. It's not good, when it's all processed. And so that was really different. I remember, it's funny, I didn't think I would end up talking about the food, but I remember a bakery, I told you this, I mean, oh my gosh, the smell. You would get within a half mile of that place, and the smell was amazing. I had to really self-manage not to eat my way through, but we would stop there every morning, and it was baked fresh every day. And, it was amazing. It was just really simple and delicious and wonderful.
So you kind of light up when you talk about this, and you've mentioned the words like positive, happy, and I know that there are unhappy people everywhere, and there are
Mhm.
people that are happy in seasons. But overall, you say that the people are positive. What do you think attributes to that?
I don't, I guess I could venture a guess, but it really is just my opinion. They really, and they really do enjoy life. Like when there's a festival, I mean, they are all there. Like it is a party. It's a party in the streets. It is a party for days. It is, and I'll tell you about this was actually on the island of Grenada, but I'll tell you about this, the last thing we did before we left. But what is attributed to them being very positive, happy people? The thing I would say is the people around them.
Community.
Yeah. I mean, one, the community, but also because it seemed like just about everybody we ran into, of course, not everybody was, perfectly happy, but if the people around you are really happy, positive people, it's a lot easier to be positive and happy. And
Mhm.
it's a lot harder to be negative when everybody's sort of up and positive around you. So I think that aspect of community, I would guess. I don't know, I wouldn't venture to say anything. I mean, I guess it's tempting to say, oh, it's a simple life and, they have no worries. I don't know that, right? Everybody has worries no matter what, right? And so I don't know that. But that would be my guess. It's just the culture that they're in. It's been proliferated through the years and yeah.
Oh, you know what? That would be my suspicion. Obviously, I've never been there. I went to Jamaica one time to a resort that wasn't very much of a resort, but it was certainly a lot nicer than the homes that we passed, where there were mostly people outside, um, just dancing, laughing, and their homes were what we would consider, I mean, a shack, quite honestly. Um,
Hmm.
and I suspect, especially based on all that I've studied about the brain and about community and how powerful human connection is to our really sense of prolonged joy, that would be my suspicion.
Hmm.
Um, I liken it to, I think I told you this, about 2 months ago, I went to Charleston because my daughter was there visiting her boyfriend whose parents have an unbelievable home there. I mean, the view, it's on the water, there's this gorgeous boat, and there's a swimming. It is a breathtaking home. Um, and so I stayed there the first night and I enjoyed it. And it was lovely and peaceful. And there was just every little luxury. And the people were enjoyable. And the next night, I went to stay with my brother who lives off on an island off of Charleston called Wadmalaw. And I go there, and my brother is an extreme minimalist. Not for any political reasons, it's just who he is. So I go into his house, Kathryn. The living area, I've never seen it, is a new house. Living area, there's not a piece of furniture in it. Go in the kitchen, there's one pot, there's like a cup, a bowl, a fork, a spoon. That's pretty much it. Go into another room, and there's all his music equipment. And then there's a room with an old crummy futon on the floor and a light. And then on the porch is another bed. And then outside is this massive wheatgrass garden, which is what he eats every day. And I slept in his little bed with his shitty little sheets. And I was probably more joyful than I was the night before because of the way that I celebrate my brother and the connection that we have and the trust and the joy. I mean, my heart was so filled up when I climbed into that crummy little bed that night.
Mm.
So that is my suspicion.
Yeah. Well, and I guess to that point, when you say all that, I mean, they were so welcoming too. And
Yes.
it's just, more people, fine, great, wonderful, come on in, here's the food. Like it was always just people weren't a burden. It was never a problem, it was just like, and so that's just sort of how they live in community, no matter where they are. There's just tons of people, not tons because it is a small island, but you know what I mean? It's just they're always around people, I guess is a better way to say it.
Yeah. Um, we have a tendency, I feel like as humans to envy.
Hmm.
And like being at that house that I stayed in,
Hmm.
I could envy that because my
Hmm.
house is nothing compared to that.
Hmm.
We can also envy the people of Cariacou.
Hmm.
I think a little bit of that is choice and celebrating what is around us and the people that we're with.
Hmm. Yes, I would say that maybe not right now because of what they're going through, and it is such a hard time for them to rebuild. And yet still the piece of the heart connection, the community piece. And like, here in America, at least my experience is that houses farther back, larger yards, big fences, very, secluded, right? My
Right.
neighbor and I joke, we see each other more at the grocery store than we do when we're at home. We live next door to each other. And I'm outside, not infrequently. So, but if we're in the backyard, there's a big old fence. I can't see her, we're not talking. And so that piece, absolutely, like that piece that it's ingrained in the culture, that it's easy to do. Because for a while I tried to get people out into our cul-de-sac to have like community meals. We'd have a cul-de-sac party and a potluck, things like that.
Mhm.
A lot of work, right? It was a lot of work to organize, to get it ready, to get, da, 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 da. It was super fun, but our community doesn't really lend itself to that. That's not the natural way of being. It's not like, I just yell at my front door, hey, come outside, let's eat dinner. It was a coordinated event, you know.
Right.
And so that piece, I think, I would envy that that is the culture and that's how it is, and that everybody, I'm not sure I would like it as who I am now, though, because I'm so used to this alone, farther away, have my space. So
Yep.
there's a whole thing to it. Like I think the envy part for me would be that that is how they are and who they are and how they grew up and their being. Do you know what I mean? And so it's not for everybody, but I just watching and it's just so easy for them to just be with each other and navigate through life.
Yeah. Do you think that they have a lot less opportunity for like digital stimulation compared to what we have?
Gosh, we're going back many years.
Yeah.
So I don't remember. I mean, I didn't have a cell phone, or anything like
Yeah.
that. So I would guess just because of access and the expense of having, but I'm sure that there's tons of them now. Um, but if again, I guess it goes to this community thing, like maybe, if your friends are outside playing and you hear them and you want to go out there, it's not like you come home to a house far away and sit down in the basement with your headset on. You know what I mean? So it's all about, I think that's how community so much influences who we are, is the community around us and what is standard, what's acceptable and what people do.
Um, let's talk for a minute though. I don't want us to run out of time about going forward. And what I mean by that is they seem to have this resilience muscle and neural pathway, and they're like, we're going to build back. We'll be back. Um,
Mhm.
what do you think attributes to that, to this, we're going to build back mentality?
Oh gosh, I don't think it's really a choice at that point, right? I mean, when Katrina hit, and again, I'm just talking about what I witnessed, people left New Orleans, they went to Houston, they went east, and a lot of people never went back.
Yeah, so true.
And I went to school in New Orleans, so I have a connection to that. And so I had an experience, and then I went back after Katrina, and it was a completely different place.
Mhm.
Um, and a lot of people don't have that option. Where are they going to go? Do you have to have money to go somewhere? But all your family is there, where and like what what I mean. So it's just you have to build back. That's your only option at that point.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think more choices is not a good thing. I think again, and when you have all of these choices, what you can buy anything, you could, or within reason, but you could do anything. It's like, I think this, the brain doesn't do well in that environment.
Yeah. Yeah. I was at some kind of an event not terribly long ago, less than a year ago, and one of the speakers was like a CEO. She had just retired from a big hospital in the Atlanta area. I don't remember which one, somewhere up 400. But anyway, she was talking about during COVID, and she really took us on a fascinating journey of what healthcare workers faced during COVID when we were, at the height of all the, mask wearing, all the care, how absolutely unbelievably overwhelmed they were, trying to function. And the reason why I bring this up as I think about them rebuilding is she says that when they look back on that, it was one of the most powerful, most bonding, most team spirited times that she's ever been a part of,
Oh,
because
wow.
they were forced, to rebuild what it looked like to work in that hospital almost overnight. Everybody was working way past capacity, but they were doing it together.
Mm-hmm.
There was no arms crossing and saying, well, I need a break. It's your turn. It was none of that. It was just like all hands on deck.
Mm-hmm.
And she said the tough time for them was really more when that slowed down
Mm-hmm.
because they started to miss that really strong team connection. And so I hope that will, some of that same spirit will carry these people through during this really tough time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it is a time when people come together. You're absolutely right, just like you're describing. And again, it's down to choice. Like, I don't have a whole lot of choices here, right? I have to wear the mask. I have to do the thing. So how am I going to move forward? And then it's a choice. Am I going to move forward with,
Yeah.
resentment and anger, or I'm going to move forward together, with peace and love?
Yeah. And also the journey that they're facing right now, um, it makes me think about the fact that it does, it will come to an end, and that what they faced it'll never be over. Whatever they've lost, be it people or possessions, um, the feeling of safety. I mean, those things will never be gone, but they will build it back.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel probably being stronger than ever for it.
Well, and the other thing is they live on an island in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
Not the first time they've experienced a hurricane. It is a way of life. So, and they say, about every 20 years, that's when, you start to get like, ooh, we haven't had a big one in a while. And so I think that's part of it too. It is part of the whole lifestyle, right? Not the lifestyle, but it is a fact of life. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Not that that makes it any better, but what I'm saying is, what am I saying? I think it goes to the resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is a piece that's like, this is where we live. We love where we live. And this is part of where we live.
Yeah. And yeah, there's no choice. You just move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there wasn't I mean, again, it's many years ago and it was just my experience, but I mean, there wasn't really talk of like, ooh, when I get out of here, or, ooh, even, I mean, and the kids, most of the ones that I was around were really young. So I'm not sure that would have been there, maybe teenagers, they get that sort of wild hair, like, but it was just kind of the way it was. That's just what they did. They were there. It was
Yeah.
life, it was family. It was, yeah, all generations sitting around the table.
You know what I'm learning from hearing you talk about this and seeing how you light up when you were there is it's being reinforced to me that sometimes we don't pay attention to things until they somehow touch us personally. I mean,
Hmm.
as you know, I believe that is the power of story. Like the last story I sent out, people came back and said, I love this because, and they told me how it affected them. We don't stop and give it energy or give it space to realize how other people are suffering, um, until we take a moment and it affects us personally. I remember one time when my son was in prison and a friend called him. No, he called the friend. No one can call him. But the friend took the call, and
Okay.
the friend had been drinking and driving, and which is why my son was in prison. And he called me just so upset. How could he do this after what I've been through? I just can't even believe it. And I said to my son, I said, Wilson, before this happened to you, you were aware of it happening to hundreds and thousands of people, but it's touched you personally. And that's a completely different response. And so I'm going to slow down and remember, and whatever people are going through, whether we can relate or not. I mean, there's just so much to honor and celebrate around us that we're not taking the time to do. And I'm really glad we got to take the time to do it today.
Yeah, yeah, me too. It's well, and I think, Sorrel and Geo have been tasking us with like, let's bring some more like current events into this. Let's talk about some things. And this is a challenge for us because we don't watch the news. Neither of us do. Kind of as a point, or at least I don't. You said that you don't most of the time. But you're right. I think it goes to when something touches you personally, you start to see actually, yeah, this is something that, is worth celebrating, is worth talking about, is worth, bringing to light. And I think it's a wonderful thing for me to remember just through your asking of what it felt like to be there. Part
Mhm.
of it is the weather, right? It's super sunny. At least it was. It wasn't quite the rainy season. I was just getting into it. But it's super sunny, it's outdoors, you're doing a lot of, it's just, you're getting all of that good oxytocin and all of that good stuff. And then I just have such bright, every time I think about it, it's just bright. It was very sunny, but it's also the people and what we did and, what we went through.
Mm. Were they very welcoming to you?
Oh, yeah, everybody was. Yeah. I mean,
Speaking
we stuck out. Yeah, they speak English. Yeah. We stuck out. Like, I mean, we were, this gaggle of teenagers, and yeah, it was so, I mean, but they were all, and they knew who we were and they knew what we were doing there, and yeah, they welcomed us with open arms.
It makes me want to go down there and help them rebuild. If I had such a luxury, I would do it. But
Well, speaking of which, I'm going to put in the chat, there is a way to donate if anybody feels compelled. Grenada has put together an info sheet. So here, I'll put it in the chat. You all can go there and yeah, I encourage you if you're moved to donate to the relief fund to help them rebuild. And it's been fun to talk about and fun to remember also through my own experience and through the questions like, oh yeah, that's what Tara talks about all the time. That's the community piece. That's, and it's like thinking about it in terms of a lifestyle. It is really, it's a good reminder.
oh, I couldn't agree more. It's been an
Yeah.
absolutely inspiring and energizing conversation, as always.
Yes. And with that, we are going to close out with our tenets, and we're going to start with love, as we like to do, because, well, what else is there? It's important. So love, give of your time, give of your resources, give to those who need it, and laugh, throw that head back and laugh, even at your own jokes. Get your rest, relax, stress less. You also want to get those 7 hours. You want to eat the plants so that your body, especially if you can get them off a tree, and move that body. Don't forget. We'll see y'all next time on the Daily Huddle. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kathryn. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you all. Have a
ladies.
great
Thank you for the
day.
discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.